gun violence in our city.
I never in a million years thought one of my kids would get shot.
Teen tragedies as some of the youngest community members fall victim to bullets. Gangs prey on our youth to commit violent crimes, a lifestyle many kids see more and more as technology changes.
The end result, way too often, is death.
The problem plagues the nation. Jonesboro is no exception, with a rise in violent crime. Innocent people dying at the hands of youth gang members. Tonight, a deep dive into the problem and the solutions. A Region 8 investigation. Kids in the Crossfire.
It is a problem which impacts us all, no matter where we live. Violent crimes in communities like Jonesboro are on the rise. Good evening, I'm Chris Carter. Over the last 15 years, Jonesboro police have seen a rise in those violent crimes, and kids are behind it. Streets we walk every day, neighborhoods that we call home, are seeing those crimes. Now, over the next 30 minutes, we are going to take a look at the problems and the solutions. Quiet streets quickly rattled. Neighborhoods turned into crime scenes. Youth are increasingly behind the chaos.
It's just becoming more violent in recent times.
Jonesboro Police Chief Rick Elliott is at the forefront of the fight. His officers have responded to a rising number of youth gang crimes.
They may be second or third generation gang members.
FBI data gives us a glimpse of how big the problem is. I dug through dozens of pages of FBI data. In Craighead County, since 2010, I discovered 21% of violent crimes were committed by youth between 10 and 19. The data does not show if those youth are involved in gangs, but Chief Elliott seems to think there is a strong possibility.
There are people that are gang members who really don't know they're a gang member. And then the sad thing is they're constantly recruiting, in our schools.
Those were the chief's comments after a rash of gang crime in late November. From 2010 to 2020, data provided by the Jonesboro Police Department found major crimes against persons have gone up 249%. Murder and non-negligent manslaughter went from 2 to 11 cases in 10 years. Aggravated assault also saw a drastic increase for the last 10 years, up 61%.
This is not new. It's something that's been ongoing in our community and across the nation for many years.
While youth crime is not new, the number of youth involved in gang crimes is. The most recent national gang report put together by the FBI, data only goes to 2015. In it, analysts found nationwide there are about 30,000 gangs, a 15% increase since 2006.
So gang activity is prevalent really throughout many of the metropolitan areas in the state of Arkansas.
Jim Dawson is the special agent in charge of the FBI Arkansas based out of Little Rock. Dawson said gangs tend to focus on metro areas. In eastern Arkansas, those are places like Jonesboro, Marion, West Memphis, and the Helena, West Helena areas.
I don't think that Arkansas is in any way an outlier. Many of the issues that we see here in the state of Arkansas are present throughout metropolitan areas in the United States.
By definition, these areas are considered smaller cities or rural counties in data compiled by the FBI. Those areas also tend to have the highest number of youth gang members. FBI data found in rural counties just under 59% of gang members are under 18. In small cities, the percentage a little lower at 48%. In big cities and large suburban counties, less than 40% of gang members are under the age of 18. The glamorous lifestyle shown on TV, in video games, and in music is an appeal for youth, according to Dawson and Elliott. Youth find themselves wanting what they see.
It's enticing. The shiny new things, it's enticing for the kids.
Some youth drawn to the lifestyle of drugs, guns, and crime just want to belong.
But you get hooked up with the gangs, and then now you got a home life. You got people that want to care for you, and so it becomes their family.
Chief Rick Elliott said in some cases, gangs are providing essential needs to those getting involved, things like food, money for rent, and love. Gang leaders have found it's easier to recruit these days as well, thanks to an already large number of youth involved in crimes.
They're in school together. It's your classmates.
It is estimated 2 out of every 5 gang members nationwide are youth. The men who are fighting the problem of underage boys and girls committing gang crimes believe gang leaders think it's good for business.
It just makes more sense to get these kids in. You pay them a little bit, they get nice new clothes and shoes and even food for the family sometimes.
The fact that they are youth, that the legal system is not going to be able to deal with them as they would be able to deal with an adult.
With the legal system essentially left with limited options, Chief Elliott and Special Agent Dawson hope through community resources and prevention, the trend of troubled teens committing crimes can be turned around.
It looks like the glamorous lifestyle, but the end result way too often is death.
Now, getting into a gang usually means committing a crime. Law enforcement that I talked to said that that's usually a violent crime. Things like carjacking, assault, robbery, even murder. And when shots are fired, those bullets do not have names. Innocent kids are getting caught in the crossfire. One Jonesboro mother knows that firsthand after her son was the victim of gang shootings last November. Time
It's just like an ordinary Monday.
has slowed for Shakita Wesson.
He didn't have no chance of survival, so we just started praying.
It has been nearly 5 months since Wesson's time came to a momentary stop.
I just went, it's kind of blank after that right there.
November 22nd, 2021. Shakita's son, Devontae Wesson, was shot and killed near South Caraway Road in Country View Circle.
I never in a million years thought one of my kids would get shot.
According to Jonesboro police, Wesson was in a car with 2 other people when 2 other people opened fire. Wesson was shot in the head. 18-year-old D'Angelo Lewis is charged with his murder.
I don't think I didn't eat, I didn't sleep. I still can't sleep.
At the time of the shooting, Jonesboro police said it was related to a series of other shootings. Police Chief Rick Elliott said they were all gang-related. Wesson's mother does not believe her son was involved in a gang, but instead was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
He got shot because of somebody else. That really just like, that hurts the most.
That is too big.
How? Let me see.
Described as the one who kept you laughing, the one who gave back to those who he loved, Wesson's mother holds on to the memories she has of her son.
He had a smile that just, it was addictive. Like you, if he smiled, then you smiled. And now that smile is gone. Yeah.
You miss the smile. You miss his presence. You miss his noise.
Yes.
Wesson does not understand why her son had to die. She's frustrated because for this mother, kids, young adults like the man accused in her son's murder have no business with guns.
It's just like they so young these days. There is no reason a 14-year-old should be walking around with a gun. How are y'all getting these guns?
Wesson wants parents to take responsibility for their children. She echoes the words of police who believe stopping youth and gang violence starts at home.
Parents just got to get more involved in what their kids doing and who they're hanging with. And because it's like, my son wasn't a gangbanger, but the crowd, they were in gangs.
Especially as more youth find themselves in the world of gang violence. Youth who are recruited by their peers, classmates who have found a lifestyle of drugs and violence. Wesson has a message to the gang leaders who are targeting teens.
Do it yourself. Stop using these babies to do it for you. Because all you're doing is destroying the kids that's coming up. Like, you're an adult. You know right from wrong. You figured it out a long time ago.
It is a message she hopes gang leaders hear and follow. Because as time moves forward for her, she's left to remember her son.
Innocent people, lives being torn apart for no reason at all.
A young man who had just graduated high school and had a whole life ahead of him, killed by what police said was an act of gang violence.
You took a part of me that I needed. I've always said that we were a puzzle, and you snatched a piece of my puzzle away.
D'Angelo Lewis is charged in Wesson's murder. He's facing first-degree murder, terroristic acts, and criminal mischief charges. And fighting the problem of youth violence goes beyond just cuffing and charging those who are responsible. It means getting the community involved and getting to the root of the problem. Jonesboro Police, along with other nearby agencies, have teamed up to work together. The goal is to help other officers know what is happening. Because Chief Elliott and the FBI Little Rock said gang activity in Jonesboro has connections to other communities. Investigators do not just focus on gang crime. They focus on crimes also associated with it, such as drug and gun trafficking and the sex trade.
And by making these connections with law enforcement and sharing the intelligence that we're getting and networking, then we're becoming more successful in getting these individuals off the street.
At the Jonesboro Police Department, officers are credentialed on a federal level. Officers are certified by the FBI, Homeland Security, U.S. Marshals, and the ATF. It allows when an arrest is made, cases can be tried on a federal level, usually resulting in tougher punishments. Beyond prosecution, solving the problem starts with prevention. Both local and federal law enforcement believe that the community is key to solving the issue of youth gang violence. Our Griffin Demaray talked to some local advocacy groups about this issue and how they're turning around the numbers. Griffin.
Chris, different programs throughout the area offer children a safe place where they can go, where they feel like someone cares. And in many cases, that could be the difference in their future. On the court, inside City Youth Ministries. Success is the goal for these kids. The game of basketball these children are playing is just one way to keep them off the streets.
I think always people think it has to be some big program, but really it's just to know that somebody loves you and cares about you and wants you to make good choices.
Hannah Caddy is the director of City Youth Ministries. She said offering youth a place where they can come and be themselves is important.
Where they're loved and they're cared about, that's going to be the difference maker for them if they're going to choose a good choice or a wrong choice that could change their life forever.
The City Youth Ministries program offers kids an after-school safe space where they can play basketball, ride scooters, as well as have an opportunity to connect with other children their age. Caddy said they do everything they can to guide them in the right direction, but there is only so much these programs can do.
I think, we always hope that we can give them the right instruction and give them the right tools to make the right choices, but ultimately it's their decision if they're going to make a good choice or a bad choice, and so we can only just hope for the best.
Crystal Jones is a Jonesboro mother who said she has seen the dark path some of these kids are on because she, too, once made that same wrong turn.
So I really didn't have a good support system at that time. So, I just got involved with the wrong crowd.
Jones said now that she has a teenage son, she understands how important it is to get kids in after-school programs. That's why she is starting her own organization with other concerned parents to keep kids off the streets.
If there is, I don't think it's enough awareness of the programs that are available to the children. I don't think that they're aware of it, as well as the parents are not.
According to Multi-Briefs Exclusive, a study of more than 5,000 law enforcement agencies nationwide found youth crime during school days peaked between 2 and 6 p.m. when kids don't have supervision. Jones said there are some good after-school programs, but it is all about trying to get the word out so everyone knows.
I realized that there was more of a need for something positive, more positive structure for the teens.
Both women stressed it's all about making a child know you are there for them, being that rock so they don't fall into a dark path.
Your life is precious and you have dignity and worth.
A mission of two women to make sure the boys and girls of Northeast Arkansas have the resources to score big in life. Juvenile arrests around the country have decreased by 70%, and participation in after-school programs have increased by 50% since 2000, showing that these programs really do make a difference, Chris.
Thanks, Griffin. Keeping kids out of the crossfire starts at home. Adults need to know what to look for. They play a critical role in preventing kids from being recruited. The National Gang Center said there are common identifiers for parents. First, look at how your child dresses. Some gangs wear specific colors. If you notice your child is wearing more of one color more often, it could be a sign. The same goes for certain brands or types of clothes like bandanas or necklaces. If you notice your child is taking a new interest in sports, pay attention. The Gang Center said some professional sports teams' names also have gang meanings within street gangs. Also listen to their music and watch their movies. If your child is focusing more on violent movies or songs, they may be exploring the gang lifestyle. While guardians are the key to prevention, the issue of gangs and youth violence has made its way into our schools. According to the Center for Disease Control, school violence in America is up. In the center's 2019 study of more than 13,000 students nationwide, 7% of high school students had been threatened or hurt with a weapon one or more times. Almost 9% of those students said they had not gone to school because they felt unsafe on their way to or from or at school. Schools across Northeast Arkansas are working with law enforcement to keep school violence at a minimum and to make sure that the students and staff are safe. Our Katie Woodall looked into this topic for us after talking with school districts and school resource officers.
There are some days where we see kids more than their parents do. So it's just an opportunity for them to get to know me, for me to get to know them.
Jonesboro Police Corporal Sheridan Watts has been a student resource officer at Nettleton High School for 5 years, building relationships with students he sees every day.
Hopefully we're just an asset and, like I said, a resource for the students to come to when they have questions.
While developing those positive relationships is important, Watts' main priority is student safety. That means working with his district on youth violence prevention.
When you have someone ask you the question of, gangs in schools, well, no one I've ever talked to has said, yes, I'm in a gang. It's, I'm part of a family. I'm part of a group.
According to the National Gang Center, around 11% of students in schools across the country reported gang activity in their school.
When you start to break down the data of who is joining gangs and when, you're seeing it as young as 5 up to 17. At some point we can't just keep pulling kids out of the water. We've got to go upstream and find out why they keep falling in.
For school officials, figuring out where kids start to struggle comes from those positive relationships.
I've worked with kids, that have been, had some issues, some run-ins like that, and most of them have been very open and honest about it.
Amy Reed is the social worker for Nettleton High School. She works closely with the school SROs to make sure students are getting the care they need.
Sometimes if a student is involved with law enforcement or if their family is involved with law enforcement, they let us know to kind of check on the student.
Not only are relationships between students and staff important, violence prevention is a community effort. Schools working with each other and local organizations.
Myself and the other area SROs, we talk, on almost a daily basis.
Another important step in prevention, getting kids involved outside of the classroom.
All kids want to be a part of something, and you always want to hope that that's in a positive way. But sometimes, it's just not the case. And so my thing is just encouraging. It's never too late to try to plug them into what they're interested in.
The Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention says after-school activities not only happen during critical times when students might be unsupervised, they offer positive role models and relationships for students to build.
The more people you can have involved helping a student, the more a student, has on their team, the more successful they are going to be.
For schools to be effective in violence prevention, they have to know their students, developing relationships, providing positive extracurricular activities, and continuing education in schools and in the community.
Knowledge is power, knowledge is key. I think the more that our community, our students, our parents, are aware of and knowledgeable about, I believe that is key. The more you know, I think the better you will be.
Now, while there is no required number of SROs per district in Arkansas, Watts says the more you support your school's SRO program, the more officers might be hired to better develop those relationships with students. In Jonesboro, Katie Woodall, Region 8 News.
The Center for Disease Control considers youth violence a problem. From what your kids see on TV to what they do with their friends, society's role in molding children is undescribable. Aramani Williams is back in the studio with how society and what kids hear and see is molding them.
Chris, the World Health Organization found youth violence is the 4th leading cause of death among young people. With video gaming being a multi-billion-dollar-a-year company, it is no surprise youth are taking part in the activity more and more.
Video games are the way of life inside Game Exchange in Jonesboro, where dozens of people let go of reality.
I got into that when I was younger, so about when I was
I say 10.
Among them is Elizabeth Watson. She has a love of gaming. She also works at Game Exchange and is among 73% of youth nationwide who take part in video gaming.
Mind building skills and hands-on, and also team leading as well. Certain games can be used like for learning tools.
Working at Game Exchange has taught Watson a lot about ratings. She said it's up to parents to keep an eye on what games their children are playing.
Different ages shouldn't be playing certain games. Like if it's a rated R game, kids shouldn't be playing it.
Several studies have been done asking the question, do violent video games lead to violent children? According to Grand Theft Childhood, the surprising truth about violent video games and what parents can do, explained that the constant playing of violent video games is linked to increased aggressive behavior. 60% of middle school boys and 40% of middle school girls who played at least one mature rated game hit or beat up someone.
In the 80s, we've seen a huge increase in like gang activity, violent crimes.
Not everyone agrees with the studies, though. Dr. Angelo Brown is a criminology professor at Arkansas State University. He said youth violence and video gaming do not correlate.
It could cause aggression, violent video games, but in general, with violent video games increasing, violence at least generally has decreased.
In fact, Dr. Brown believes in some ways video gaming could help youth.
And video games at home, it actually keeps kids away from the street life and in a safe environment.
In an Associated Press article, Villanova University psychology professor Patrick Markey found that out of males who commit violent crimes, only 20% were interested in violent video games. Watson believes video games helped her. She said video games sometimes get a bad reputation, but it is not all bad.
I took a poll asking you, do video games and social media make youth act violently? 64% of you agreed and others disagreed. In the studio, Imani Williams, Region 8 News. Chris?
Imani, thank you. Gangs have been around for centuries and they are changing. Our coverage of Kids in the Crossfire continues after this.
By the time you turn 65, life has taught you many lessons. Like word of mouth means words you can trust. And 4 out of 5 customers would recommend a Cigna Medicare Advantage plan because we strive to deliver high-quality plans with extra benefits for you. Call 1-855-809-6099 to get an all-in-one Cigna Medicare Advantage plan. With $0 monthly premium, $0 copay for primary doctor visits, and $0 copay for many prescription drugs. Plus, we partner with local doctors to ensure you get quality care. You've also learned to plan ahead for retirement. Head in the right direction. Call now for our Medicare Advantage Guide and get it absolutely free with no obligation. Call 1-855-809-6099. That's 1-855-809-6099. Or go to GetCignaMedicare.com because life has taught you well.
You are the next Great Acts of Kindness winner.
You are the definition of a Great Acts of Kindness winner.
You're not white, y'all.
I was in the background crying when she got excited. It was priceless.
I'm about to cry.
Nominate someone deserving today for Great Acts of Kindness. Nominee winners receive $408. To enter and for official rules, visit kaita.com/contests. Sponsored by First Community Bank and KAIT. Region 8 News at 5, 6, and 10. Bringing you breaking news as it happens. Keeping you up to date on the issues that impact you and your community. And investigating the stories that deserve a closer look. It's the news that matters to you. From the only live local news team in Northeast Arkansas. Watch Region 8 News at 5, 6, and 10. Region 8 News, working for you.
Gangs have been around for years. The first known gang in the country was the 40 Thieves. It took Washington, D.C. by storm in the 1820s. And then there are the gangs that you might know of from the 1980s and the 1990s. But the gangs today are much different than the gangs of the past. From street ownership and identifiable colors, the days of Bloods and Crips are gone. The face of gangs in America has changed. Today's gangs are non-traditional. Consider them a hybrid sort of gang. A variety of races and genders, and sometimes a mixture of the old gangs we used to see on the streets joined together to create a new one. Gangs that once had strong leadership now have a collective group of people calling the shots.
Neighborhood-based gangs have largely flattened out in terms of their leadership. And what we have seen is that we don't typically have just one senior kingpin.
Jim Dawson, the special agent in charge of the FBI Arkansas, has spent years studying the evolution of gangs. The initial purpose of gangs was to protect their own, as well as support one another. Dawson explained what he believes is the new purpose of these evolving gangs.
The real purpose of a gang is to provide or to serve as an economic collective for these neighborhood kids, so that they have what they perceive to be opportunity to be able to bring income in.
Without a leader at the top and a need to bring in money, many of these new street-style gangs have turned to crime to survive.
What switches? Anybody know that lingo?
Dr. Angelo Brown is the assistant professor of criminology at Arkansas State University. He explained as we move further from the days of Latin Kings, Crips, and the Bloods, street gangs can be very hard to document. The groups change names often and have little or no rank structure. The most guns, money, and drugs usually equals more power.
Everyone wants the American dream, but if you don't have the means to get it, you're gonna break some corners and go around.
Well, Dr. Brown does believe the desire for power means violence. It also means putting on a show.
It's all image. Most of the times, those cars, not owned, not leased, to really educate them to see a lot of the lifestyle just for image.
Many times, according to Dr. Brown, the money members are pocketing ends up being less than minimum wage when you factor in court fees and jail time. The way gang members commit their crimes has changed over the years as well. Technology has made it easier for street-style gangs to network and bring in people from out of town to do the job.
It's not uncommon to see a neighborhood-based gang in, say, Little Rock that has affiliations with another neighborhood-based gang in Pine Bluff that has affiliations with neighborhood-based gangs in St. Louis or in Texas. This is becoming commonplace.
With 33,000 estimated gangs nationwide, Dr. Brown and Special Agent Dawson spend their time in a fight to combat the crime. But they can't do it alone, so they have a message to anyone considering the street life.
No matter what, environment you're from, if you're from poverty or not, you have a single mother, a single father, you still have a chance to be successful.
There has never been a prohibition against living peaceably with your fellow man. And one of the best avenues to do that is to have an honest conversation with your fellow American on this.
In an effort to make those messages a reality, the FBI is working with local police departments to combat the issue of youth violence and those gangs. Fighting this issue also needs your help. Here's what the National Gang Center offered. Talk to your children about the consequences of gangs. Be firm in your expectations. Also, get to know your child's friends and the friends' parents. This means being aware of their attitude on drugs, gangs, and violence. Also, talk to your child about ways to deal with the pressure. Encourage an open dialogue with your kids and let them know that it is okay for them to come to you. Set firm limits. Let your child know what is expected and then have firm and fair consequences. Finally, set family time. As we have learned tonight, sometimes these youth are joining gangs so they can feel loved. We know that we could not cover every aspect of this issue tonight, but we hope we were able to take you beyond just the problem and show you reasons for it and solutions and how you can get involved. This is our home. We work here. We live here. Our families do too. We care about this place and finding the solutions to make it a safer place to live. We will continue to investigate this topic and we will bring you the answers as we get them. Thank you for joining us for this KIT Special Investigative Report.